All right, and we are back with another YouTube painting tutorial. Um, Let me get this oriented. It seems like it's just a little off. I had done a video earlier this morning where we used some fountain pens to do a drawing based off of George Inness's work called Twilight. George Inness was a tonalist painter in America from, it was 1840s, 1850s, and throughout that second half of the century. Him and James Whistler. Is it James Whistler? I always feel like there's another third name within Whistler's name. Is it James McNeill Whistler? Anyway, him and Whistler are considered kind of the forefront of the tonalist movement. So we looked at his painting. We did a ink drawing of it, and the purpose of that was to kind of look at the tonality that was taking place. Also, to see the composition, the shape of the river within it. It looked very similar to a painting that I had seen and actually sketched of his prior called the Juanita River. And it was just a composition that seemed to take place a lot in the 1800s in the tonalist style in America. I'm letting that water soak for a moment, and I figured it'd be good just for me to show you guys what I'm talking about. I had pulled up a picture on the iPad to show it. My book has a black and white plate of it, so I'm going to bring this underneath. It's going to focus for a moment. Oh, nope, it's looking pretty good. And you could kind of see the tonality and the shape of the water there. And we focused a lot on that little ducking back taking place right in here. And like I said, that composition seemed to show up often, so I don't know if people are painting the same scene, but that bend in a river is very common. For example, here's one, Delaware Water Gap. And if we look at that, you can see the curve taking place, and we get that kind of idea of that river continuing past that group of trees, or past the land in the top one. Looks like it was just a different angle that he had taken it at. I'll show one more. Here's one that I'd referred to a drawing in the past. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Juanita River. This is a black and white plate. And you see how once again the river comes in and curves around. So what we're going to do, we did a drawing on it. I then watercolored over it. I wasn't really too happy with the watercolor that I did over it, and I think there was 2 reasons for that. I think I tried adapting my palette to the palette that was used by George Inness, who was an oil painter, and I had to use cadmium yellow and cadmium red, which are more opaque watercolors, and I just don't usually use them. They're very vibrant and whatnot, but it's not something that is common for me. But it was a good experiment, and I'll probably want to kind of continue a series like this where we'll find a classic landscape painting, do a sketch of it, look at the tonality, see what we could learn from that artist, see what type of composition it is and whatnot. I am doing that rambling again at the beginning of the video, but I like to kind of give you guys background on what the plan is for the painting. So today, and it's the afternoon, the afternoon after we did our pen and ink drawing and then watercolor over it. We're just going to make up a river composition scene. It's going to come out compositionally very similar to what I showed you in those photos. It's going to be that concept, and we're going to see how we can put it together. We'll look at it from the tonalist standpoint of having it backlit. Like I said, there was some cadmiums in, I think, in the original painting, and there was also either, I think, a Naples yellow that was toned down. At least that's the way, or sorry, lightened with white. At least that's the way I viewed it. That's what I think it was. I'm going to stick within my standard palette, and I'm not going to do the cadmium or anything like that. And we'll see what takes place. And we'll just kind of put it together a composition. I'm not going to add to my palette yet right now, just because I want to jump into the painting aspect since I did so much talking. Let's take alizarin. And I'm not looking at any picture here. This is going to be kind of made up while also using aspects that we saw in those. Where we have the alizarin, we're going to have our raw sienna, and then ultramarine. And I'm going to try to get it a variety, not just bottom up, but from left to right. I'm going to mix burnt umber with that ultramarine to get everything to kind of mellow out and put a little darkness. I could come from left to right with clouds. Could even take a paper towel. Now this one was bleeding black off of it. I'm not sure where that had come from, so use that. Kind of just take definition away. I am going to get a little experimental right here by taking my rigger, which is over here, grabbing a little bit of lemon yellow. The reason I'm using the rigger is that washing the hake for me right now is not something I usually do at this stage, and I don't think I'll be able to pick up the cleanest lemon yellow. I'm trying my best to just get pure lemon yellow. Let's just come back along here. Now, this had a little bit in the water. And now we'll do a water composition, the water portion. So it turned orangey pink. It was reflective of the sky. So we're going to do a little bit color reflection, what we see in the sky. Here we're going to create the shape of our curve. So let's curve it out. Broad and I opened it at both sides. I'm just trying to deviate from the painting we had looked at this morning, just so it's not like we're painting that exact thing. We're going to have here, we're going to do land masses on either side with trees, and we'll probably shape things differently. Now, those land masses had a green to them, so this is raw sienna, kind of mimicking what I did in the water. Unfortunately, I guess it wasn't as pure as I had thought with the brush. This landmass is going to come up and over. It's going to pass back behind in the far distance. Should have maybe gone with a purplish blue there, but we'll see. This is the other side. I do need to wash off. See, that's why I was reluctant to use that the rigger for the lemon yellow, because of how I'm sorry, how I'd have to wash it, and then I just dirty my water up, and I only use one water source. Okay, so this is our grass. Let's mix ultramarine and see if we can get green. I'm trying to stick within the Ron Ranson palette. Since the sun's setting, everything's going to be darker. Bring the curve in there. Okay. Ultramarine, Venetian Red. The Venetian Red is outside the Ron Branson palette. However, you can use light red instead. Kind of getting that purple back there for that far distant hills. And I can take Paynes Grey, and these are going to be the reflections or shadows or reflections of our tree masses that we wound up putting in. This will be a foreground mass. More Paynes Grey. I got a fuzzy on the end of that. I could break up these land masses with little inlets of water. I don't want to mimic on both sides. Unfortunately, that's what happened right there. I do want a darker green. Let's see, lemon yellow and the Paynes Grey will give us a green as well, so it's not a green I mix often. And that is because blacks have a blue in them. I can get some of this green down here in this reflection. It may be time to do a dry off, and we're going to put in our trees, because at this point everything, I just want to go darker in value. Oh, let's see. Let's put in something far distant back here. Just a little something. We'll shrink in size so it recedes. Stop it at that. This edge juts out. This guy will have a little reflection for them, so let's put a little reflection for those guys as well. These guys will be covered by the tree, but we'll just show you how you can extend back there. Okay, we could dry off. I might just dry off to a point where I can do some scraping and then continue with the dry off. Let's see. I find that what needs to be important, what's important with this is looking at it from the side and seeing the sheen that's still there that allows me to scrape. Here, there is a rock in the painting, and I know that like I keep on going back and forth between saying we're not doing that painting, we are doing that painting, but this is really important right here. There's a mass of trees in the original painting, and there's nothing in the foreground. In another painting, there in this type of scene, in the foreground, there's a tree coming up. This spot seems to hold a lot of weight. This rock itself is going to balance out compositionally the mass over here. So having something here, even a fence, an animal, a person, this is a very important compositional spot, it seems to be. So add little textures. We'll leave it at that. Okay, more dry off. Actually, let me grab a dark first. Just to sit those guys in there. Okay, now we're going to put in a variety of trees. Let's let's see, staying within the Ron Ranson palette. Too much water. Raw Sienna, Ultramarine, this Paynes Grey mix. Now with trees, and this is something that I pointed out in the past and something that I pointed out in this one, is we want a variation in the tops of the tree and up and down a flow that's taking place. And I can mix burnt umber and ultramarine, trying to get a super dark Paynes Grey for the undersides. And there's a variety of wet and wet taking place. The spots that I had just put down now have that Paynes Grey being added to it, so that's going to spread. And there's some spots that I didn't hit that's going to have harsh edges. Could also have a closer mass right here, and we can use this dark shadow reflection effect. And what I'm going to do is just take the water bottle and just let that diffuse. Let's grab some lemon yellow. This is wet down here, so I can push and pull it around and get different effects. Use the side of the rigger for texture along here. Let this cut in back here. Add tree structures, trunks. Lemon yellow. I'm even going to take raw sienna, burnt sienna, and put that in here for variety. That could give us some depth to these tree masses. Paynes Grey, kind of reshaping this side, just to help it point up more. You can bring down just lines in this wet and wet. Oh, that's my tummy. A light wash back here for variety. And I'm going to have to push hard to scrape some in here. Let's come to the other side of this water. Raw sienna. Burnt umber, Paynes Grey. This is a big deviation from the painting that I'm referring to, but we have that softened effect of it receding back. So we have that S shape. And that was the main thing we wanted, was having this bend take place. Paynes Grey. Use the side for texture. Also use the hake for the grass. You can go lighter. To give that curved illusion back here. If we feel like we needed a little extra something something for a landmass to help separate. With this, and I think in the video when I was looking at this, it's very common to have little clumps of grass extend out. That's what I'm doing right here. And that's going to have its own reflection, but it's kind of dark that I'm putting in. I might need to lift it some. I can take this, actually, something I rarely do, but I should do it for y'all. Let's get Venetian Red and Ultramarine. Mix that up. It's a little too red. And you're gonna get a purple. And you can use this mixture, I believe, or you can use ultramarine blue and burnt sienna for the gray for rocks. So that's kind of that undershadow right there. Why don't we just mix? I doubt I'm even going to put that much on. If I do, a bit of gray, or it's more brown, but we'll explore that more in the future. Rocks. I'll have to add that to my list of stuff. Let's see. Scrape out some closer masses. Try to get a strong dark. And get that strong dark down in here. Now, from this point forward, you could play around with grasses and see what's possible with different colors on these areas to see how things pop forward or push back. That's lemon yellow. Could put ultramarine blue. That's too strong of a blue, but blend it in with that green, that lemon yellow, and see how that affects it. Take raw sienna, play with that over it, see how it affects it. You know, just kind of utilize moments to explore. Raw sienna. You can bring a little bit down of that into the water. I think for the most part, we might call it done. I think I just want to darken up this bottom line down here. I'm just going to take a mixture of dark, like usual, just and I can all right, so at that, if you want, you could always take, and you see I had splattered some paint up in here. You could just take a micron pen or the rigger, put some birds in. Let's try this off, and we'll put a mat over it, sign it, and call it. So before, as I sign this, I'm not sure the super correct protocol, but I believe we'll title this one inspired by George Inness, as we utilized a very common curve, S-shaped bend that he used within his paintings. We also utilized a weighted point, which, making that connection, seeing that rock in the one right here and then seeing a tree in one start right here, excuse me, it seems as though that point is super important to weigh out massive trees on the other side. So keep that in mind with balancing things. The painting that I originally referred to was George Inness's Twilight. The second one was George Inness's Juanita River. So check those out and see those compositions that he utilized. Check out the Hudson River Valley School. You'll see similar compositions there. You can check out the tonalist movement. However, this would be early tonalism, and a lot of tonalism that we see that becomes popular, and tonalism that's popular today, is more expressionist tonalism. So it's more very atmospheric and moody, and seeing like what you feel. So, of course, there's a whole bunch of links down below for you to check out. Please like, subscribe, comment. Check out my Etsy account. If you want to become a patron on Patreon, there's a link down below. It's very cheap. It helps support me buying paper and supplies and producing content for you all. I think that's everything. Once again, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all soon.